And once again, after another long hiatus, the PML podcast is back with our EPL preseason warm-up. I am joined today by Kevin Allen and Preston Thompson, who claim to be our best EPL minds in the league, but Preston's shaking his head.
I did not claim to be that. I want the record showing. I think Kevin and Wick claim to be that, and I think they have a stake to it. I claim to be in a solid third place, which I think even now is a bit of a stretch.
It's been a while since Kevin was on the podcast, so welcome back to the podcast, Kevin.
Thank you very much. Super glad to be here talking some English Premier League. Let's get to it.
So before we dive into people's teams, what did you guys think of the draft? For reference, we changed the player scoring to 3 points for a goal and 2 for an assist. And honestly, I'm kind of disappointed with how it shook out. A lot of people played it pretty conservative, myself included. I was hoping we'd see at least 4 players go in the top 10. I mean, I guess we had 5 in the top 12, but nothing really spicy. What do you guys think?
Well, it looks like if I have like the blessing of hindsight here. We have a week behind us. Picking Arsenal in front of Harry Kane, Son, Bruno Fernandes seems like a bad idea.
Very bad.
Like I don't think Arsenal's going to finish in the top 10. And Arsenal was taken as team 6? 7. So I guess that's not too much of a stretch, but they looked really bad.
Oh, they look so bad.
And apparently their 2 best players hate playing for the team at this point. So
they're in shambles. They're definitely
that doesn't exactly bode well. And also Son looked like he has a player of the year contention potentially. If Harry Kane is to leave, then I think Son could he's definitely a golden boot favorite, or he's up there. Harry Kane's going to score wherever he goes, and Bruno Fernandes obviously tore it up in the first week. So that seems really bad. Everything else I think is actually pretty normal, though, weirdly. You could argue that I should have taken a player instead of Spurs, but Spurs look pretty good this past week, so I feel good about it.
Yeah, I think people are going to start to find out that, players should have been a little bit higher in the priority list. But that being said, I think it was a great decision to do it. Shaking things up is never a bad thing. And also, that players who didn't get picked, Paul Pogba, are showing out and making people maybe regret not taking them over. I mean, obviously not over a team, but maybe over some other players, like an Aubameyang. I don't know who has Aubameyang, but I know he definitely got drafted. Is that you, Craig?
Yep.
Oh, man. I'm sorry, dude.
Yep.
Pogba's been drafted before, right?
I had Pogba last year, and he sucked.
And he wasn't that great. It's kind of hard to tell with him if he's going to really light it up.
He hasn't found his true form with Man United, but one thing with Man United, they've done nothing but strengthen ever since they got Bruno Fernandes, and that's really only going to make Pogba play a lot better. I mean, obviously, we saw it in the first game week. He had 4 assists. I think that's the most assists a single player's ever had in a Man United shirt in one game. And he's definitely capable of doing that. He's also capable of popping in the odd goal or 2. So he may be a January redraft choice, depending on how his first half goes.
Other steal of the draft that jumps out, the Brentford Bees, on pace to finish top 4 in the league. What an incredible side the Bees are. What a value for Luke late in the draft.
They look really good. Obviously, during our first crack, we were watching that game, and I didn't see any point in that game where they looked like they were going to lose it. I don't know if they were that good or Arsenal are that bad, but I was very impressed.
It should be noted, out of any team in the Premier League, Arsenal had the youngest average age in their starting 11. That's not a good sign for a team that's supposed to be finishing top 6, top 7.
Yeah, that's a good point, Preston.
Let's look at the teams.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's get into it.
So jumping right into the teams. I guess we'll start with me since I had the first overall pick. Feeling a little, definitely less optimistic about my team now. I guess Brighton getting points is nice. Manchester City, frustrating game. Lost 1-0, but I don't know.
Don't panic.
Aubameyang and all my players, I don't know how I'm going to feel about them in the future, but yikes.
I wouldn't be worried, Craig, about your teams. I'd definitely take it as a plus that Brighton was able to get the 3 points. They were in the conversation, and they probably still are in the conversation of one of maybe 6 or 7 teams that could get relegated. But they've got a really good manager, and they've proven the last couple of seasons that they can really stick it out and survive. So yeah, and City they're going to ramp up into it. Most of their the real stars, the internationals, just got back into training probably a week ago. So they're a little undercooked, as they say. So just give them a week or two, and then they'll be back at it.
Thanks.
Yeah, they were 11th place on Christmas Day last year, and they won the league. So,
wow.
I think they're fine.
I do think that clearly I don't know enough about this league because, that's pretty – to me, if something happened like that in the NBA or like in the NFL, like that would be just absolutely mind-blowing. Is that crazy for you, or is it
is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It is pretty crazy. They dropped some games, but everybody was pretty tightly packed back on Christmas.
Right.
Like Everton over the period of 3 weeks jumped from 1st to 7th or something. Like it was pretty tightly packed last year. And then they went on an unbeaten streak. I think they won 13 in a row, something like that. So they have the potential to do that for sure. Your players though, slightly concerning. I do think Ollie Watkins is going to be just fine for you, but Aubameyang and Timo Pukki looked okay. He played against Liverpool with Norwich.
Yeah.
He was okay.
I'm more worried about Aubameyang. Pukki, whatever. I don't even know if he had any scoring.
That's you taking a shot. Yeah,
he had one shot. I don't know. You may know more than me, Craig, since he's your player, but Ollie Watkins didn't see the field over the weekend. He didn't start. He didn't come off the bench. I don't know if he's hurt or what, but I'm not saying you should be concerned about that, but that's just something that I noticed.
I think he's I watched that game. I think he's still getting back into something after his summer break or something. He was not in full team training leading up to it, I don't think.
Well, he wasn't in the England squad, so I'm pretty sure he had a full preseason, unless I'm wrong. But one thing, as you see there, if Danny Ings is on the pitch, he's going to be taking the penalties, even if Ollie Watkins is playing, which isn't the best news for you, Craig. But but still, he's a really great player.
Fingers crossed.
All right, we got Krebs now.
All right,
moving on to Max.
Max Krebs.
I will say, I said it the first time, but I was very upset he took Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted him.
Yeah, he popped up with a goal. I had him last year. I was very pleased with him. I think he was top scorer for at least the first a couple of months of the season. Then he kind of dried up a little bit, but that's what's going to happen with Everton. But yeah,
he played really well in their game.
Yeah, him and Richarlison. Who has? We'll get to him, but we'll cover Richarlison. But he's a hell of a player. You think he had a goal and an assist?
Charleston wasn't drafted.
He wasn't.
Wow, really?
Not on here.
Really, right?
Wow, there is another conversation for a redraft pick if he has a good first half of the season.
For sure. Yeah, Max has Sterling too. We're gonna get into this, but I think taking any Man City player is just not a great idea at this point.
Ooh.
I think the last couple of years of this league have kind of shown it. And I think it's too hard to pick who the guy is going to be for them. And Pep has never started a player more than 32 games out of a season. There's 38 games in a season, by the way, for those of you at home. That's very uncommon that he rotates his lineup that much. I would not trust anybody from Man City in a game like this.
Yes.
Well, we have more Man Cities to talk about down the board, but since we're already here, what are the chances Harry Kane ends up in Man City? Because that's
Seems to be looking pretty good now.
So do you think it makes it look good? Because the way I view it is that with Tottenham winning pretty handily and controlling the game without him, it's kind of like they're like, okay, we can sit on him and wait until we get a buttload for him, And it's like,
but that's the thing is they are getting a buttload for him.
Yeah, there's no matter what. There's 150 million pounds right now on the table. They just got to make a decision whether to accept or, remain stubborn and keep him. But, he's back in training with the team. So, if nothing happens between now and I think they play on the Saturday, I think he's going to play because they need him, obviously.
Yeah.
So
and you know what? I think regardless, I think Kane is going to have a good year. Because I think the only position Man City is struggling with is that center forward man. They don't really know who they want at this point. But obviously, if they get Kane could be that first guy that is like consistently started by Pep and run into the ground. But I think he's going to be fine regardless of where he goes. So I still think it's a safe pick.
All right. But not Raheem Sterling.
Nah, I don't think so. Nor Gabriel Jesus, who's on this next group of picks we're going to talk about.
I think Wick took 2 teams early. He got Liverpool at 3 and Everton at 18. So he was banking on 2 good teams, good. Which I think that's a good strategy. Solid. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly
what I tried to do. Brighton. That's what I tried to do, but I don't feel as confident with the 2 that I came away with compared to the 2 that he had. But he did pick before me, but still. Liverpool obviously looked great. Everton looked surprisingly good. They had a new coach in, so there's like a lot of questions about that, but they looked pretty good. His players are really where the questions are. He has 3 players that could all very reasonably be second-tier strikers on their own teams, with the exception of Cavani, I guess. Cavani was his last pick, and that is probably going to end up being the steal of the entire draft because it looks like they're going to play him full-time up front, and he's going to be one of the first names in on the 11. But I don't – Kevin, is that right?
I'm not so sure. I don't know because he's getting up there in age. He's not gonna start every game. I mean, he already hasn't started every game because he didn't play last week. They may use him in Europe. They may use him in the Premier League. Who knows? But he's their really only out and out striker.
Yeah.
I think over the weekend they played with two wingers and Bruno Fernandes playing pretty high up the pitch, without a recognized striker, and they did pretty well. So they're definitely not going to rush him back. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play again this weekend because literally he just got back from international break, I think, late last week. So don't be surprised if he's not in the squad again this coming weekend.
But if he ends up being in the squad, that's the steal of the draft for sure. He had a great second half of the year last year, and Wick got him with one of the last picks.
Yeah, right. Yeah, from where he was picked. Yeah,
third to last, I believe.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's great. That's kind of us missing out on Hazard that one time. That's not great.
So moving on to Tilka's team. Tilka was the one who had some mailbag questions. Again, his was mostly relating to Man City players, which we kind of talked about already. The other thing he asked about was he let the board decide his team, and he ended up with Burnley. And so his question was like, is it worth it to wait on a team and just get as good of players as you can? And I kind of feel like a team needs to be one of your first 3 picks because you're like, those are points you're guaranteed, right? And then like the 3 players, like one of them isn't going to score you any points. So even if you have three players that score you 32, 31, and 30 points over the year, like one of them's not going to do you anything. So if you have a team that gets you like 20 points, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it has more to do with where he's picking, because I think Kevin said it earlier. There's probably like 6 or 7 teams that have good chances of going down. That's a lot. So you're talking about Burnley could finish reasonably 14th, or they could finish 20th. So like, if that's what you're looking at, then what does it matter that you get the slightly better of that group of 7 as opposed to the last of that group of 7? So I don't know that I hate waiting on a team that's in a group like that. If you're drafting like where I was and you're thinking, okay, there's a clear top 6, which I think there's a clear top 6, I have to get the last of this top 6. Because then when you get into the B group, like you're really shooting in the dark. Then I think you have to take a team there. But I think he's more just like, what's the difference, honestly, between like Burnley and Norwich? And I know Kevin and I think like there are some differences, but they realistically could finish either way. I don't think it's that unheard of.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not like he passed up on like some fantastic opportunity. So I think it's just fine what he ended up with. He does have Grealish and KDB, who Grealish played in the opening game of the season. He looked okay. Yeah,
no, I mean, he's always going to be lively. But again, it's just about, how realistically, how much is he going to play in the Premier League? Because I think I mentioned this before, but, Man City, they're all in on the Champions League. Yep. And I feel like they're going to prioritize that competition for their best lineup.
Yeah. Remember what happened with Riyad Mahrez a couple years ago? He's like the best player on Leicester who goes and wins the title. This is like sudden phenom. Man City pays a ton of money for him, and then he immediately becomes like a rotational player. Like, I feel like that's what City does with people, and that's what I don't think is a fantasy option.
The crazy thing about that is they're all fine with being rotational players.
Well, because they're winning a bunch of trophies and making a ton of money.
Paid so much money. They're playing for the best coach in the world, and they pretty much are in contention for every trophy they have available.
To play for. And they're never going to have to play more than once every 10 days, basically. Yeah. Which the Liverpool 11 is going to have to play probably 3 games in 8 days at some point this season. It's going to be tough.
Yeah. All right, who's next?
Baxter,
the early leader, right?
Uh-huh. The leader. And I think
13 points. Look at that.
I think the best combination of players potentially on the entire board.
Yeah.
Mo Salah, Danny Ings, and Iheanacho. Iheanacho is the big question mark, but that's fine to spend a question mark on your last pick. Because like if Jamie Vardy starts to fall off, then like he's the only other guy that can poach balls up front for them. So I think that's the Ings Salah top 2 is going to end up being really, really good for him.
Yeah.
You've got a good set of players too, Kevin. Maybe yours is up there with him.
Well, we'll find out. But going back to Baxter, West Ham looked really good last Sunday. They came from behind, scored 4 goals. So I think they're going to be in the conversation for a European place, which is where they're currently at right now. I think they finished 3 points off of the Champions League places at the end of last season. That's a good pick. Southampton, I think they're going to struggle. They might get relegated. They play Everton over the weekend, got up. They scored the goal, but they didn't really earn it because they're gifted it off of an error. But anyways, I think, they're in the conversation to get relegated. So it's just about how many points they can actually get, Baxter. And then, I agree with Preston about his players. Very good selection. Salah already has, goal and 2 assists. If he can do that every other game for him, he'll be very happy with that. And then now we know Danny Ings with Villa, he's their penalty taker. So there's 10 goals for you right there if he stays healthy. Plus any open play goals.
I will say I think the opposite of taking the Man City players, taking the Liverpool players, because Liverpool's depth is really not that great. Like if they are scoring, it's because one of 3 or 4 people are scoring. So I think like taking Salah, Mane, I honestly think even Firmino and Jota, both of them are safe picks. So like I think that's a much safer pick there.
Yep.
All right. Let's move on to Evan.
EB. Leicester City, Crystal Palace.
I don't like this set of 5 here. I think it's tough. I think Leicester's going to be good. I think they'll compete for top 4 just like they have the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I think everything after that, I'm struggling a little bit.
Yeah, Crystal Palace looked bad over the weekend. I mean, they did play Chelsea. That's a really hard game to open up with, but they didn't really look like they were doing anything there. They have a new manager, so that's another one to keep an eye on. And then let's take a look at his players, shall we, Preston? Jamie Vardy, great goal he scored. Proper striker's goal. Same thing with Callum Wilson. Finding himself in the right area in the penalty box, getting his head on a cross. I mean, those two will get you goals. They'll most likely be top scorers for their respective teams. Here's another thing that's going to suck is, there's a very good possibility that we may never see Lacazette again in the Premier League. So, he was quote unquote ill for the Brentford game. They
both were credited as illness.
There are rumors that they'll both miss this weekend's game against Chelsea, which basically then gives Arsenal no chance against Chelsea. That one could be a stinker. Well, probably will be a stinker for EB.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. But if Leicester lights it up, he at his worst he can't finish lower than like 6th or 7th because he's got both Leicester and Vardy.
But with that being said, and before we move on, having 9 points from the first match week is pretty good for Evan, given what we just talked about in his teams and players.
That's true. Craig's wondering why it's reading.
Yeah, my scoreboard's wrong. I just realized that. So we'll figure that out later. Evan has 9 points, not 6. But we can move on. Let's talk about Kevo's team.
Why don't you kick it off, Preston? You talk about my team.
Well, it's the players here. Those were the first couple picks. The teams didn't seem to be a focus for you early. So Lukaku obviously now is like significantly more confirmed than when you initially drafted him. So that seems to be a gamble that has paid off. Chelsea don't seem to like Timo Werner, who's the guy they have in that position now. So Lukaku is going to get a ton of chances, I think.
Here's a stat for you. Chelsea's top goal scorer in the Premier League last year was Tammy Abraham,
who's gone
half the year, and now he's gone. So they got goal contributions from they got a sprinkle here, sprinkle there, Pulisic, Werner, Havertz, Ziyech. All of them kind of sprinkled in. That's how they got it. But now they have a guy up front who can do it all.
I also think it makes the Chelsea team pick a lot better too, because it just makes it so much more deadly.
Yeah. No, they look very good. I watched the full game on Saturday. Very easy for them against Crystal Palace. Just kind of rounding off my picks here. I was actually happy with both of my team's performances. Even though Newcastle lost, they were winning at halftime.
Yeah.
I'm not really expecting much from either of my teams. So super ecstatic that Watford got a win over Aston Villa. I did not see that coming, but Watford have a good-looking team. A lot of people are still, picking them to get relegated, and that may be the case. But I'm very happy with them starting the season with 3 points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the conversation between you and me is on Liverpool. Is Jota getting the first team minutes at striker, or is Bobby Firmino getting the first team minutes at striker?
Well, so far it's Diego Jota.
Yeah, but he poached a goal that he didn't really earn. He poached a goal he didn't really earn, and then Bobby Firmino came on to sub for him and also poached a goal he didn't really earn. So I feel like Klopp is trying to figure out which one of them he likes better, and I don't think he learned anything from the first one.
I mean, they both put away their chances, and that will make Klopp happy. So I wouldn't be surprised if Bobby Firmino starts next game, but Jota comes off the bench. I just want him to stay healthy because he can get me at least 10 goals poaching.
Yeah. And I actually think there's a really good chance What's tough is like this is just EPL. I think in all competitions, there's a great chance that both Jota and Firmino have great years.
Yeah.
Just because Liverpool is in a lot of different competitions. So
Yeah,
I think both of them are going to see minutes. The question is who sees more Premier League minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then finally, we'll talk about Leeds later. But I'm not too concerned about Bamford. They'll be their top scorer. Leeds did get turned over by Man United this past weekend, and they're actually dead last on goal difference at the moment, but I wouldn't be worried about them.
Patrick Bamford, the Joe Mixon of the EPL.
Looks just like him.
Taking a risk on a good player with a bad support system.
That is not what Joe Mixon is.
Dang it. I was trying to go for a take. You got to support me on that.
All right, now we got to talk about your team, Preston. Your 5 picks. So
yeah, I obviously feel better about the Spurs pick now than I did last week. I mean, they looked really solid against City.
Look good. They look really
much
good.
Better than I expected them to. They seem to really believe in the new coach they've got in, even though he doesn't really come from much. The Aston Villa pick kind of worries me. I took 2 teams first.
Don't be worried about Villa. I think they're going to be fine. They're going to be.
But I can't do with them being fine. I need them to be the best of their tier. Like I need them to be the best B tier team, which means they got to finish above Arsenal. They got to finish above Everton. They got to finish above Leeds. Wolves, obviously.
They were taking.
Yeah. They got to finish above West Ham. That's the thing.
That's going to be their marker.
So early because I felt uncomfortable trying to spend that real high value pick on a player that I didn't really trust. So that's really what makes me nervous. So I'm going to be watching like every one of their games this year because I think that decides how I do. I think the players are okay. They'll be just fine.
Mm-hmm.
I hope Rashford comes back sooner rather than later. He's out with injury, but it doesn't look like he's going to be gone for that long. He'll probably miss 4 games. Which is still playing more games than uninjured Man City players play. So I think I'll be okay.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there, Preston.
What about Ivan Toney, Kevin? You got thoughts on Ivan Toney?
Good. He's a good player. Interesting fact about him I heard is that he's won Golden Boots, which is the top scorer in the league, his last 2 seasons. So he played in 2 different divisions. So he's won top scorer 2 seasons in a row. I mean, he's not going to get it this year. Let's just get that out there. But he'll take penalties. He'll knock in a few goals. He'll knock in a few assists. So
he's a classic.
Don't be surprised if he's like your 3rd player as far as contribution. But he'll definitely hold his own. I think.
I think it's worth the risk. I mean, he scored 31 in the championship, which is kind of
the playoffs.
And I think he's just like a really good poacher. He's just constantly in the right place. And even though he didn't score in the Brentford Arsenal game, he looked pretty good. Like he was definitely threatening. He was pulling coverage. He looked okay.
Yeah.
So, all right, we got Jared now.
Couple left. Yeah, Jared. So his
Arsenal pick.
The famous Arsenal pick. There it is, Jared.
Makes up for it by Bruno Fernandes just being potentially having a crazy game.
When the draft happened, I was thinking like if he took Bruno at 8 or whatever, and then took Arsenal at 11, that wouldn't be that crazy. But
it would have made a lot more sense.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same thing last year. I knew Bruno was going to be good, and I was texting Preston, and I was like, Jared won the league with Bruno last year. He's not going to get past Jared. And, of course, he didn't. And, of course, he scored 9 fucking points this weekend.
Yeah, what a player.
He's on track to have just another crazy year.
And the crazy thing is he didn't even have a penalty. That's usually how he gets most of his goals. So 3 open play goals is gee whiz. Yeah, no, that was pretty insane.
But Kevin, where do you think?
Like his team? I still think he has the best 3 players.
Really?
Yeah.
Where do you think Arsenal finishes? What's the over/under?
10th.
The worst I saw was 11.
10.5.
I would say, I was going to say 12. I don't see them coming ahead of West Ham, Leeds, Aston. I'm trying to think of who else just squeaks in ahead of them.
Wolves,
know.
maybe.
Yeah.
We'll talk about. We can segue into Luke's team, I guess. But I took Ollie Watkins instead of Wolves, but everything I read in my 2 days of research said that Wolves were guaranteed to finish top 8. So we'll see about that.
I don't know about that. Yeah, that seems.
I really liked them.
I think
everything I read liked them, so I wanted them. But
the B tier of teams this year all look really solid. Like, it's just going to be hard to really differentiate yourself in that group. I think the fight for the 6th place, that last European spot, is going to be ridiculous. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Luke's got Wolves, Brentford, Harry Kane, Son, and Raul Jimenez. Harry Kane and Son together, that doesn't actually seem as like ridiculous as I think people probably think. I think both of them are going to end up having like fine scoring years.
Yeah, I mean, and that's even before Harry Kane goes to another team. Last year, I know for goals, Harry was obviously first and Son was third. It's like, and then when you add in our assist points, I'm pretty sure they were like 1 and 2 on the same team. So that's just insane.
Yeah. Harry Kane had the most goals and the most assists last year, and he still didn't win Player of the Year. Isn't that crazy?
Racist.
Yeah, it is kind of nuts.
Brentford, though. What about the Bees?
So I think with our Brentford actually didn't look so bad. If Brentford finishes like 16th, Luke's getting value out of that pick. Yeah. Like, they don't have to do much to give him a good chance.
I mean, Brentford have a very favorable run of games. Looking at it now, they play Crystal Palace next this weekend. Crystal Palace look awful. Then they have a cup match. Then they play Villa, so that's probably their toughest game. But then they have Brighton, Wolves, and then their fixture list gets a little bit harder. But they can get ahead a little bit early here in the season and collect some points.
Mm-hmm. I think we should all make our picks on who we think is going to win the league before our time runs out here.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, we got 5 minutes. So
okay,
Preston,
let's hear your top 4 in no particular order.
Let's not do top 4. I want to hear top and bottom, and then we can do like a Golden Boot winner.
Okay, all right.
Preston,
you first.
This is tough. I'm looking through the.
Wait, hold on. While you're doing that, are we picking like PML top or
PML? Yeah.
Okay.
For our league, top and bottom, and then pick a boot winner.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Those 3.
Okay.
Preston, you got them?
I think I'm really liking Kevin's team, actually, weirdly. I think like Newcastle and Watford don't have to do very much for him to have a good year because he's got good scorers. His top 2 players are going to be really solid. But I'm not going to pick him.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to pick so tough.
All right, I'm going to do mine.
Yeah,
because he always complains about us hating his team, I'm going to pick Luke to win it. Because, again, I like the Wolves, and I think Harry and Son, whether they're together or split, will put up like at least 60 points. So, yeah, Luke to win it. I'm going to pick Tilka to lose it. Sorry, Tilka. Comes back around. And I'm going to pick my guy, Ollie Watkins. He's going to win the boot for me. Give me a solid second place.
Geez. Wow.
I definitely think before I make my pick, I think it's a lot harder to choose who's going to finish last than is going to win. I don't know if you guys are sharing that same opinion, but just looking through the teams, I'll just go ahead and go. I agree with Craig. I think Luke. I'll pick Luke to win.
Now I hate my choice.
He's got 3 really good players, and then he's got 2 teams that could potentially finish mid-table, and I think that can push him to that number 1 spot. The pick to lose. Man, that is so hard. You know what? I was looking at Tilka because there's two Man City players, but they're two great players. That's why I'm like, he's also got Man United, who could also win the league.
And Mane's going to have a much better year, so like he doesn't even need that second.
If you're just picking on teams, you may look at Jared, but he's got again. I think he has the three best players. You know,
3, 2, 1. Pick a loser.
Wick. Yeah.
Preston.
I am picking myself to finish last because I think it's just a safe bet at this point. It's where all the betting money is. And weirdly, I'm going to pick myself to finish first. No, I'm not. I actually really like my group. I don't think I'm going to finish last this year. But, geez, man, I don't know. It seems pretty tight. I like the Luke pick. I feel like he got value out of sitting on Harry Kane for that long. So I like it. I think it's good.
Wow, consensus
to
win. You're welcome.
That's very weird.
I
know.
Listen to this. All right, we got exactly 1 minute left. Any final thoughts for the squad?
Excited for the season. It's going to be a great season. I hope everyone pays attention and follows along. There'll be many storylines and probably a good amount of injuries too. So that always mixes things up.
I will not finish last.
Bold statement.
I will not finish last. I will put money on me not finishing last.
All right. We'll see, buddy. All right, everyone, have a good night, and we'll look forward to talking about real football real soon.